No way! On my way shopping, I witnessed a scene I shouldn't have. My husband, who was supposed to be working on this holiday, was walking arm in arm with my mother. I followed them. We might be seen by someone? It's fine, nobody comes here at this time. Let's at least go to a hotel first. I can't wait any longer. A little bit is okay, right? Well, I suppose it can't be helped. Then, they embraced and kissed. I always thought my husband and mother got along well. I had my suspicions, but I never thought it would go this far. Hiding behind a sign, they went even further in their shocking behavior. We really shouldn't do any more, someone might see us. Though her words showed reluctance, her face looked pleased. This is thrilling, isn't it? Saying so, my husband reached for my mother's lower half. Seeing this scene made me feel sick, and I couldn't watch any longer. What are you doing here? I burst out in front of them. My mother, surprised, straightened her clothes. My husband, as if wanting to ask why I was there. Cheating with your wife's mother? I thought there might be some remorse, but there was none. On the contrary. If it's out, then it can't be helped. You have no right to be angry. It's your fault for not satisfying him. Sorry, but you're no longer needed. What's that supposed to mean? Thanks to your mother, you're worthless now. Doing this, Dad won't stay quiet. At this point, who cares about someone who's about to be picked up soon? I was so angry, I thought my blood vessels would burst. Ignoring me, they laughed mockingly as I rushed to my father. It seemed my father was aware of their relationship and had left something behind. He entrusted me with what to do next before passing away. With Dad gone, my husband and mother could do as they pleased. Obviously thrilled by the absence of the most troublesome obstacle. It's been a while. The next time I saw my husband and mother was at my father's funeral. My mother was affectionately touching her significantly larger belly. Now you understand you're no longer needed. Don't worry. I'll give birth to a healthy baby. Our baby will surely be cuter than one with you. Previously, such words would have affected me, but not anymore. Good for you. Keep it up, you too. Stop pretending. You must be dying inside. So annoying. That's why I told them the truth. That baby, you know. Following that, their faces turned pale. Of course, I wasn't going to let it end there. I have to do this thoroughly. That thought was growing stronger. I'm Michelle, an office worker. I'm turning 24 this year, but my mother, Juliana, is 44 years old. Ever since I was a child, I've been told by others how young and beautiful my mother is. Even now that I've started working, it's something I'm proud of. Speaking of which, isn't today our wedding anniversary? Oh. That's right. Since it's a special occasion, tell me that story again. How many times are you going to make me repeat the same story? According to my mother, she met my father right after graduating from high school. He used to frequent the cafe where she worked part-time. Apparently, my father gave in to my mother's passionate advances, and that's how their relationship started and eventually led to marriage. At that time, my father had just graduated from college and was only 23 years old. But there was a lot of opposition to the marriage, right? Yes. Your father was worried he might get punched by my dad back then. Really? I didn't know that. Dad doesn't really talk about those kinds of things. Unlike my rather unrestrained mother, my father gave the impression of being more reserved and serious. Hearing their story, it was surprising that two people so opposite got married. It seems my mother got pregnant with me soon after they married, and they faced a lot of opposition at the time, but my competitive mother fought against it. So, Michelle, don't you have someone special? No. I'm enjoying my work right now. If you keep saying that, you'll turn into a grandma before you know it. Don't say such unpleasant things. It was 2 weeks later that things started to change for me, who had no particular desire to marry. I went to a bar with a friend after work. This place has a nice atmosphere, right? Indeed. But I don't really come to places like this often. I get a bit nervous. There's another reason I brought you here, though. What? Look over there. My friend pointed towards a man making cocktails. He was tall and looked very cool. He seems like your type, right, Michelle? Wait, you brought me here because of him? Why not try talking to him? I couldn't possibly do that. I had only ever dated one person back in high school and hadn't really experienced much in the way of relationships. In the end, I went home without speaking to him that day. Before I knew it, I found myself going to the bar almost every day. More than wanting to talk to him, I was satisfied just watching him work. And then, as usual, I stopped by the bar before going home. I'm home. Welcome back. You've been coming home late recently. Where have you been? Just a bar. Huh. That's unexpected. Well, yeah. Could it be that there's a guy you like? Why would you think that? My mother has an uncanny ability to guess these things. Hit the nail on the head, didn't I? I ended up telling my mother everything that had happened. Then she said something surprising. Then maybe I should go check it out too. What? Let's go tomorrow. Isn't that a bit sudden? It's fine, right? Dad? I suppose, as long as it's not too late. So, it's settled then. Without saying anything, I ended up going to that bar with my mother. What surprised me there was that my mother quickly started chatting up the bartender, John. I, lacking my mother's boldness, ended up drinking alone and feeling somewhat left out. Then, Michelle, come join us over here. Okay. This girl here doesn't have a boyfriend, so take good care of her, will you? Hey! By the way, if you marry this girl, you get me as a bonus. Don't say things like that. Dad will scold you. That's right, I forgot. While my mother's runaway behavior was surprising, it somehow led to a fun time. Maybe she created that atmosphere to make me feel comfortable. Since that day, my mother hasn't accompanied me, but something nice has happened. Me? Are you sure? Of course. I'd like to talk more with you. How about your next day off? Yes, that's fine. John had asked me out on a date. I was surprised that he'd invite someone like me, but I had no reason to refuse. After that, he asked me out several times, and we steadily grew closer. About 6 months into dating, he confessed. I shared the happy news with my mother. Really? That's wonderful. A good man like that isn't easy to find. Make sure you hold on to him. I'll try my best. John really treated me well, and gradually, I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. Then, will you marry me? I promise to make you happy. Yes. And so, we went to greet our parents immediately. John's parents were supportive of the marriage too. It's been a while. I had a feeling it would come to this. What? You two knew each other? Well, it's a long story. So, we're here today to let you know about our engagement. Of course, I'm all for it. That's right. If the two of you have decided, then there's no reason for us to object. Thank you. This is how we became a married couple. Seeing John getting along with my mother and chatting happily with my father, I felt no worries about our future life together. I never imagined that this was just a facade, hiding an unbelievable scheme. My mother suggested we live together, but I declined, choosing instead for us to live by ourselves. John seemed a bit disappointed, but we had plenty to do in preparation for our new life. For now, we have a lot to do, but I'm looking forward to our future together. Me too. But for today, I'm exhausted. How about we go out to eat? That sounds good. I'm in the mood for some meat. All right. Let's go. Living together brought many unknowns, but it was also fresh and fun. As we got used to married life, we developed a new goal. I've been thinking it might be nice to start trying for a child. What do you think? Yes. Actually, I've been wanting one too. Then, shall we give it a try? Yeah. I had always wanted children but felt too shy to bring it up. We began to try for a baby. But having a child wasn't as easy as we hoped. I understood that children are a blessing, but it seemed John felt differently. After just 2 months, he began to get frustrated. Is it really this hard to have a child? Isn't something wrong?
These things can't be forced. It doesn't always happen right away.
No, I think there might be something wrong with you, Michelle.
What? Why me? It could just as easily be you.
Then John started laughing. That's impossible.
Why?
Because I'm superior. There's no way the problem is with me. It was the first time I felt angry at John. I thought we had been doing well, but it seemed I was the only one who thought so. Feeling overwhelmed, I decided to talk to my mother. What should I do? So, that's what happened. Maybe John is just feeling a bit pressured? Pressured? I've been through something similar when I was younger.
Dad was.
Yeah, my in-laws kept saying we were young and should show them the baby quickly. I think that's why your dad was worried about it too. Oh, and let's keep this between us, okay? It's a long time ago, and dredging it up now would just be unpleasant for him. All right. My mom suggested that it might be best not to touch on the topic for a little while and see how things go. Hoping John would calm down. Being my first time dealing with anything like this, I decided to take her advice. But consulting my mom turned out to be a mistake, as it led me down the worst possible path. Though I had no inkling of that at the time. Oh, that's right. I have to go out later. Could you take care of Dad for me? Sure, I got it. Take care. Thanks. I couldn't help but wonder if our awkward relationship could return to normal after this. Sensing my unease, my dad spoke up. Something on your mind? Oh, it's nothing. I couldn't elaborate because my mom had sworn me to secrecy. If it's hard to talk about, you don't have to force yourself. Just make sure you have no regrets. No matter how much you dwell on the past, time won't reverse. Yeah, you're right. Thanks. I felt somewhat encouraged. There's no one as reliable as my dad in times like these. Not long after, an unexpected incident occurred with my dad. While we were out for a walk, a distracted driver hit us. I only had minor scratches, but my dad wasn't so lucky. He suffered severe injuries, including broken bones, and there was a possibility of lasting damage.
Why won't they answer?
I called both my mom and John, but neither picked up. I rushed to the hospital. By the time I arrived, my dad was already in surgery, and all I could do was wait. Mom and John arrived after the surgery was over. Sorry, we're late.
What were you doing all this time?
My phone was on silent, didn't notice. Don't be too hard on her. Juliana. How's Dad? Just got out of surgery. Then the doctor who performed the surgery came out. How's my dad? The surgery was successful, but there might be lasting effects on his leg. We'll need to wait and see. I see. After 3 months in the hospital, my dad was discharged. Sorry about all this. It's not your fault, Dad. Maybe, but what about Mom and the others? I did tell them you were getting discharged today. Haven't they been a bit cold lately? Did they visit you in the hospital? A few times, can't remember how many. Dad ended up with a disability, needing a cane to walk. He worked in construction but decided to quit, not wanting to be a burden. Mom objected to him quitting.
How are we supposed to live if you quit your job?
I thought that was out of line.
If it's such a big deal, why don't you work? Why should I have to?
Our argument continued until John made a suggestion. Why don't we all live together?
What?
Think about it. It would make taking care of your dad easier, and life might be a bit easier for us, too. Considering what to do, Mom quickly supported the idea. You know the point.
Wait a minute.
What? It's not like it's a bad thing. This benefits both of us. Dad seemed to agree. Probably not wanting to complicate things further. Okay. Then, let's start preparing. John, help out.
Sure.
They began preparations for moving in together with enthusiasm. Michelle, can I talk to you for a sec? What's up? What do you think about those two? How do I feel? Well, I guess they get along. Right. Huh? Never mind. I wasn't sure why he asked, but figured he wasn't fully on board with the living arrangement. We soon canceled our lease and moved back to my childhood home. I had thought this would give my dad some peace of mind, but the outcome was different than expected. The care my mother had provided for my dad fell to me, and she did whatever she wanted. Tomorrow I'll be home late, so please take care of Dad.
Tomorrow won't work for me. I have plans.
John has work at night, too, so Dad will be alone. It's only for a little while, he'll be fine. Maybe, but still. By this time, my mother no longer held back in her behavior towards my dad. Perhaps she had grown tired of caring for him, even if it was just for a short period. Being freed from this duty might have emboldened her. Even if that were the case, it was terribly unfair to my dad. And then, the next day, John, who was supposed to have work until the early morning, came home before midnight. Normally, he wouldn't return until the first train. That's when I noticed something odd. What's going on? I smell something familiar. Do you? While we were talking at the entrance, my elegantly dressed mother came home. That's when my question was answered. The scent coming from John was the same as the perfume my mother wore. I blurted it out. Are you both wearing the same perfume?
Huh?
It has to be the same one, right?
Maybe the scent transferred?
I pushed further. When? I don't know about that. Like Juliana said, living together, scents can transfer. But why would it be on your neck?
Well, that's because...
John stumbled over his words, and my mother quickly intervened. Anyway, I'm really tired and want to change, okay? John, why don't you change too?
Yeah, I'll do that.
They hurried off to their room as if fleeing. It was hard not to think they were hiding something. If my suspicions were correct, I didn't know what I would do. After that, John and my mother started avoiding conversations with me. Then, one day after work, I'm home. No one responded, which was odd, so I headed to the living room. There, a man dressed in an unfamiliar suit was talking with my dad. Michelle, you're back? Yeah. Then, I'll be going. All right. Take care of that matter we discussed. You're sure about this? No regrets. I wondered what they were talking about. The man left. Who was that? An old friend of mine. I see. My dad seemed hesitant before asking. Can you promise not to tell anyone what I'm about to say? That's quite sudden. It's very important. My dad gave me a look I'd never seen before, full of intensity. I nodded in silence. He's a skilled detective. I've consulted with him and asked for a favor.
A detective?
I can't explain now, but please keep this between you and me. I didn't miss his muttered words. What does he mean by running out of time? Soon, I would come to understand what those words meant. After this conversation, our family split into two sides. Essentially, it was my dad and me against my mother and John. My mother acted as if my dad didn't exist. John sided with her. I wanted to speak up, but my dad stopped me. To be honest, I didn't understand what my dad was planning. He then started to isolate himself in his room. Are you okay? Maybe you should rest. I'm fine. There's still something I need to do. He became noticeably thinner, to the point where walking alone was a struggle. He prioritized something over his own health. When I realized this, I decided to be ruthless. On this day, encouraged by my dad, I went to the neighboring town to blow off some steam. Since it's not somewhere I usually go, walking in front of the station, I witnessed a scene that made me doubt my eyes.
No way! Why are they here together?
John, who was supposed to be working today, was walking arm in arm with my mother, Juliana. If I had thought about it more carefully, I should have realized something was off. John works at a bar, but working from morning is way too early, and my mother said she was going shopping with a friend, yet here they are.
Where are they going?
I followed them discreetly to make sure they didn't notice me. After a while, they entered a dimly lit alley. I kept following them, careful not to lose sight. Then, I could hear their voices. "We might be seen by someone?" "It's fine, nobody comes here at this time. Let's at least go to a hotel first. I can't wait any longer. A little bit is okay, right? Well, I suppose it can't be helped." Then, right before my eyes, they embraced and kissed. I had thought my husband and mother got along well. I had suspicions, but I never thought it would go this far. No, I just didn't want to think about it. Hiding behind a sign, they went even further in their shocking behavior. "We really shouldn't do any more, someone might see us." Though her words showed reluctance, my mother's face looked pleased. "This is thrilling, isn't it?" Saying so, John reached for my mother's lower half. Seeing this scene made me feel sick, and I couldn't watch any longer.
"What are you doing here?"
I burst out in front of them. My mother, surprised, straightened her clothes. John, as if wanting to ask why I was there.
"Cheating with your wife's mother?"
I thought there might be some remorse, but there was none. On the contrary. "If it's out, then it can't be helped. You have no right to be angry. It's your fault for not satisfying him. Sorry, but you're no longer needed."
"What's that supposed to mean?"
"Thanks to your mother, you're worthless now."
"Doing this, Dad won't stay quiet."
At this point, who cares about someone who's about to be picked up soon? I was so angry, I thought my blood vessels would burst.
"Just you wait."
Ignoring me, they laughed mockingly as I rushed to my father. "Well, that figures." My father didn't even seem surprised. It was as if he knew everything, which surprised me even more.
"You knew all along? Since when?"
"From the first time I met him. At that time, I just thought they were unusually close. But living together made me certain."
"No way."
"Michelle, you thought something was off too, right?"
"Well, that is."
"But you didn't want to admit it." My father looked sad. I didn't want to see him with that expression. "But, Michelle, I wasn't just sitting by silently. I did what had to be done." He told me to wait, then brought an envelope from the bedroom. "Is it okay to look?" "Yeah." Inside the envelope were numerous pieces of evidence of John and my mother's affair. And among them was even more shocking information.
"This is..."
I didn't even realize this. Maybe this was the main issue.
"With all this information..."
"I'm entrusting this information to you, Michelle." "Are you sure?" "Yeah. I'm sure you'll make better use of it than I could." "But how did you?" "You've met him once before, right?" I had completely forgotten. But it was the man in the suit, the detective. Using this evidence, I could corner them both. However, they didn't come back. That was to be expected. How could they show their faces after what they've done? When they did come back, it would be the end for both of them. I was somewhat excited while waiting, but then my father's condition worsened. He had to be hospitalized, and despite the treatment, he passed away 3 days later. The cause was old age. He had probably overexerted himself, already being weak. Now, my husband and mother could do as they pleased. "Did you hear he died?" "Sorry, but we're busy." "So, could you handle the funeral arrangements?"
"Are you kidding me?"
"We're completely serious." "See you at the funeral." With the most troublesome figure, my father, gone, they seemed pleased. And then the day of the funeral came. As I was greeting the attendees, "It's been a while." The traitor, John, approached me. Next to him, my mother was caressing her slightly bigger belly. "Now you understand you're no longer needed. Don't worry. I'll give birth to a healthy baby. Our baby will surely be cuter than one with you." If it were the old me, I might have lashed out right there. But now, I couldn't care less about their words. "Good for you. Keep it up, you too. Stop pretending. You must be dying inside. So annoying." That's why I told them the truth. There's nothing sadder than a man who understands nothing. "What do you mean?" "Then let me enlighten you." I showed them the evidence my father had entrusted me with. "Too bad, but showing us that now doesn't make any difference. Yeah. Your father is gone, it's meaningless. That was all within my expectations. But I had something up my sleeve. I have a question for my mother. Is that child in your belly really John's? Of course it is. Why would you ask that? I wasn't asking you. Mother, what about it? Don't ask obvious questions. This child is mine and John's. Despite her words, I didn't miss her eyes darting away. So, what's this? I showed them a photo of my mother with a man who wasn't John. Just a friend. Oh, really? Going to hotels with just a friend, how interesting. What is this? Explain. It's a setup. You can deny it all you want, but maybe we should ask this man. Huh? Detectives these days are incredibly efficient. They can find out everything, including work and family details. Let me see. John scrutinized the documents I had gathered. Seriously? If you can't believe it, why not get a DNA test? Though, you'll have to wait until the baby is born. If you can handle the wait. I don't know any man like that. I sighed. How much longer will you deny it? Well, I figured you'd say that, so I've taken measures. What now? That's enough. Then a man sitting with his back to us stood up and turned around. Why him? Look familiar? Standing there was the man from the photo. Tim, younger than John. The adulterous pair were brought together. Say what you need to, you're free to do as you please. So, it's not my child after all. Maybe you're the reason we couldn't have kids. You should get checked. I left them to sort it out among themselves. After all, my father's funeral was about to begin. You don't have to attend the funeral. Just go somewhere else. I signaled to Tim. Let's leave for now. Wait a minute. John seemed in shock. Mumbling to himself. Just go away, you're a nuisance. Forgive me. I was deceived too. Same here. Unfortunately, I'll be expecting a hefty alimony, so look forward to that. But, just so you're aware, don't expect any inheritance from Dad for Mom. Inheritance? Of course. Such a foolish woman. Then, the three of them left the funeral. Now, there were no more obstacles. My father's funeral concluded smoothly, and I was able to see him off. But I still had plans for those two to suffer. The day after the funeral ended, I immediately started taking action. First, I consulted a lawyer to divorce John. At the same time, I initiated the process to claim damages from both John and my mother. They showed up at the family home a week later. What are you doing here now? This is my house. I've disposed of everything unwanted. Including your things. All of my stuff too? Obviously. How could you have the nerve to come back? That was a lie. I had stored my mother and John's belongings in a rental storage. I wanted to give them a taste of despair, no matter what. By the way, what happened to Tim? Well, that is... After that, it seems John had himself tested for fertility issues. The results confirmed that the problem was indeed with John. This meant that the child in my mother's belly couldn't be his. Tim had agreed not to acknowledge the child with my mother. Interesting. So, John ends up raising someone else's child, and Mom is abandoned by the father. I can't stop laughing. Isn't this punishment enough? So help us out. We have nowhere to live now. That's something you two need to figure out on your own. It's all your own doing. Is this how you treat your husband? After everything you've done, this is only fair. I've prepared the bare minimum of your belongings. Take them and leave. Where they ended up, I don't know. I heard they're living modestly in a distant countryside. Later, the family home became mine, and I started living alone. Living by myself for the first time, but without any worries, it seems life will be enjoyable from now on.